This evening, I think it would be wise just to cut out all the clutter and move right into the gospel reading this evening. So let's examine the gospel for tonight, at least a small section of it. Now, the text that I read, obviously just a small section of the 13th chapter, but it's coming out of the 13th chapter of Matthew, verses 44 to 52 inclusive. Now, the very first part of the gospel, this is verse 44a. It says this: Jesus said to his disciples. The word disciple means follower. So Jesus Christ is talking to Catholics, Protestants, that part doesn't matter. If you're a Protestant visitor this evening, welcome, we're glad to have you here. But he's talking to only those folks who are following him. And then he says, the kingdom of heaven is like what? And this is what he says. Take a look at it. A treasure buried in a field, which a person finds and hides again. Not a joy, goes and sells all he has and buys that field. That is verse 44a and verse 44a and 45. Now, when you take a look at it, you have to see two things: what it says and what it implies. Now, keep your eyes on it. First of all, it says exactly as it reads: a treasure buried in a field which a person finds and he hides again, and not a joy, goes and sells all he has and buys that field. But what does it imply? It means that this guy who found the treasure, instead of using the treasure for his good or that of his family. You know, if you find something really worth a lot of money, you're going to do what? You're going to want to run home and show your family, look what I found. I'm going to sell it. We're going to go on vacation. We're going to have a good time. That's not what he does. Matter of fact, this guy would probably be called the first official hoarder. Instead of enjoying his treasure and allowing his family to enjoy it, look at what he does. He hides it again, and then out of joy goes and sells all that he has, all of his possessions. He sells everything to buy the field in which he hid the treasure. So it turns out to be this treasure, which should have made his life more valuable, actually wound up costing him a lot of money because he sells everything he has to buy the field. Now he has to serve as a sentry. He has to stand a post and make sure that no one ever enters my field, because if they do, they just might take my treasure. This treasure restricted this guy's life. He was restricted by it. He couldn't move every day. He had to watch that treasure, watch that field. He had all of his assets in that field, in that treasure. Now, again, when you take a look at it, there's a nifty little line there. And here's the great thing about gospel reading. It's actually the whole Bible. If you read it too fast, you just plow through a chapter of the gospel, you're going to miss little nuances. Now, here's a neat nuance. How many people also found that treasure and hid the treasure as well? Take a look at the second line, which a person finds and hides again. That means what? Either this guy previously found that treasure and he hid it before, or someone else found the treasure, and that person hid the treasure, because it says the treasure buried in a field, which a person finds and hides again. That occurred definitely 2 times. Now, the unfortunate thing is this, for this fellow. It is one thing to possess possessions, and I would never stand up here and condemn that, because we all have possessions. I have possessions. I enjoy them. I use them. It is good to possess possessions. But what happened to this fella, he became possessed by his possessions. He was a hoarder. He was saving that treasure. It was restricting his life. You know, you find this happening all the time when you're driving through neighborhoods, and you'll see someone with a 2-car integral garage, and you'll notice every time you drive by that house, the cars are always outside, never in the garage. And then you'll notice that in the dead of winter, when there's all this snow and all this wind, the cars are outside, never in the garage. Why would that be? Why would you have a 2-car integral garage, the envy of so many people, and your car's outside? And then you'll drive by one day when the garage doors are open, and then you discover the answer. The garage is full of what? Stuff of buried treasure. What's in there? Not a lot of people that claim they know exactly what's in my garage. Well, sit down, don't look at the stuff in your garage, get a list, don't be looking at it, and write down everything you know that's in your garage. And then sort it all out, get to the very last box, way back in the corner. You'll probably say to yourself, I didn't know I had this. I just bought one yesterday at Walmart, and I have 5 of them, because I keep shoving them in the garage, shoving them here, shoving them there. You know, a buddy of mine, he raised all of his kids, he and his wife, and They all lived pretty close, and one day he was telling me, he said, you know, Ken, he said, my house is full of stuff. Not only is my house full of my stuff, my kids are bringing their stuff to our home. Because they don't have anywhere to put it, they're going to store it at our house. And you say to yourself, is that what Jesus is talking about? You see the absurdity in what this man did? And this is sometimes the absurdity of life. Why we just keep accumulating and holding on and stacking up and piling up and keeping our car outside, restricting the flow of our lives from one room to another in our house. Some people are absolutely afraid to open up their closet door because all this stuff is going to come tumbling out. Then why do you have it? What good is it? It is treasure that you have and that you hid and no one ever enjoys or uses. You know, in this part of our country, it doesn't happen everywhere in the United States, but for the most part, a lot of folks, when they raise their families, they raise their kids, they educate their kids. Kids nowadays have to usually leave the area, leave the state, at least the area, to find a good job. And then you'll notice this play out, you might have seen this in your neighborhood, but upon the death of the second parent, when the kids who live out of state now come back for the funeral, and they all have one thing in mind: they have to liquidate the assets. They have to get the house ready to sell it so they can sell the house and divvy out the money and go back to where they're from. And usually on the day of the funeral or the day after the funeral, you see this creature pull into the driveway. The dumpster. And the second parent has to be rolling over in their grave saying, hey, wait a second, what are you going to do with that dumpster? And the day after the dumpster arrives in a driveway, it looks like this. It is full of stuff. It is full of the treasure the owners who now passed away thought that they couldn't get rid of. They held on to it, they held on to it, they held on to it. We might need it, we might use it. And guess what happens? They die, and the kids say what? Let's just put the stuff in a dumpster. Let's clean out this house. We have to sell it. We have to move on. But that really, you look at it, and almost with a tear in your eye, you say to yourself, wow, you kept your car parked outside all those winters for that? So you could keep the stuff in good shape, so when the kid threw it in a dumpster, at least it wasn't rusty? It looked good? You know what Jesus Christ is saying in today's gospel reading? The kingdom of heaven is like the search for the guy who buys the field. What Jesus is saying is, set yourself free. Get rid of the clutter of your life, either the clutter of hatred or the clutter of envy or the clutter of angst or anger or envy. Get rid of the clutter of all that material stuff that is keeping you from moving freely throughout your house. You know, way back in 1991, you might remember this, but Arnie Schwarzenegger, he had this movie called Terminator 2: Judgment Day. And in the movie, Schwarzenegger says something, a line that I have used every day since I watched that movie. Now, he's throwing out some UN garbage, and he says this one line, and every time I take my garbage out to the curb, here we have a dumpster, and I throw my garbage into the dumpster, I turn around, and I look at the garbage, and I say this: hasta la vista, baby. Now, he said that all the way back in 1990. I've been using it, obviously. Quick math looks to be about 23 years. I've been using it all the time, whenever I throw away my garbage. And I always love to throw away the garbage. I can't wait for garbage day, because to me, it's a freeing experience. I finally get rid of all that stuff that's accumulated in a garbage can in a garage. You just free yourself. Get rid of it. I think that's the message for all of us. Just think about your clutter, your stuff, the stuff you claim is your treasure. You cannot live without it, but in fact you have for so many years because you don't even know you have it. So you can't live without it. It forces you to keep your car outside. It forces you not to use many rooms in your home because it is full of stuff. You get a room that has a pool table is now stacked galore with stuff. Your jacuzzi that you use shortly after you bought it, now the cover's on it, it's full of stuff. and you don't use anything because your house keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller because your stuff gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Get all that stuff in your life, anger, hatred, envy, whatever you're feeling inside, all your stuff that restricts you. Just pile it up, take it out to the curb and look at it and say, hasta la vista, baby.